What up? It's your boy Wall Street, and I'm back, ready to talk some hoops. And today, we're going to do another season recap. Portland Trailblazers time. And I like this team. I just don't really know what the direction is. You see a lot of teams in the league get stuck in mediocrity where they're kind of just good enough to maybe contend for the play-in, maybe get the 8 seed, maybe get the 7 seed, and then they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. The Trailblazers are kind of at the lower end of that, where they're not even really good enough to contend in the Western Conference for the play-in tournament. If they were in the East, it'd probably be a different story. They'd probably be able to qualify. But this team needs an identity. I've mentioned this before. They need to figure out who's the guy. Who are the guys, right? Who are your players that you're going to when the shot clock's winding down, when you need a buzzer beater, when you need someone to just take over and win the game? Like, who are those guys? Are you a defensive team? Are you an offensive team? Like, there's just a lot of different directions that this team could go in, and they need to pick one, right? So let's start from the top. The Trailblazers finished the season at 36-46. They were tied in record with the Phoenix Suns, which is frankly just laughable because the Suns have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, right? There's no reason why the Trailblazers, who really don't have any stars on this team, should be tied with them. But that proves that there's a lot of potential here. So they, were 3 games out of the 10 spot, so they were kind of close to contending for the play-in, right? They could have made it if they won a couple more games, but frankly, it's probably better that they're outside the playoffs and they're in the lottery. I think this team has a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential here. I think Deni Avdija obviously did very well for them this season. Had 2 triple doubles. Had never recorded a triple double before. And he's fit into this team very well. I was a little, as a Wizards fan, I was a little nervous when they made the trade where we got basically the pick that later turned into Bub Carrington in exchange for Deni. We also got Malcolm Brogdon back from the Blazers. So I think the Wizards won the trade. I also think the Blazers won the trade. I think it worked out for both sides. Deni had another, improvement over last year. He had a career year this year, averaging 16.9 points per game in 72 games played, 7.3 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists, a steal, and half a block. So the question here is that his shooting percentages went down a little bit, right? So is this kind of where he's going to plateau at, or can he be a 20-plus per night guy? Can he be a 20 and 10 guy? He's a big forward. He's like 6'8", 6'9", can play the wing, can bring the ball up the court. He's a very versatile guy, and everyone's kind of given him a lot of praise on the defensive end. I think he's a very good defender. I don't know if he's a great defender yet, but he plays hard. He definitely gives a lot of effort on the court, both offensively and defensively. I think he has to get better at shooting threes. If he can get into like the 40% 3-point shooting range, like he's gonna be something to mess with for sure. But besides that, Shaedon Sharpe also had a pretty good year. I thought he was gonna have a bigger jump. I think that's what they're really gonna need in order to push it over the top and really contend for the playoffs next season. Anthony Simons, I'm a big fan of him as well. 19.3 points per game, 70 games played. The main guys for this team played like 70 plus, right? You had Anthony Simons playing 70, Shaedon Sharpe at 72, Deni Avdija at 72. Jeremy Grant only played 47, but he's kind of, I feel like, fallen out of the rotation to an extent, right? When he does play, he's playing 32 minutes a game, but it seems like he's probably on the way out, right? So I would imagine a move for them that I would suggest, right, is maybe trade Jeremy Grant, try to bring in some more draft capital, maybe try to get some picks in this year's draft, get some more young players and build around those 3 guys that I mentioned before, Anthony Simons, Deni Avdija, Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson as well. So there's some optionality and there's some things that they need to think about for sure. Jeremy Grant is under contract until the 27-28 season, where he has a player option for $36 million. He's currently 31 years old, so he's going to be 34, 35 by the time that comes around. I would imagine he'll probably take it. It's going to be a lot of money for a 35-year-old player. So we'll see what happens. Denny is on a very friendly contract. He's actually on a backloaded deal where in the last year of his deal in the 27-28 season, he was only getting paid $11.8 million. So if he continues to improve, that's going to be a steal of a contract, right? You're going to have him on a very, very cost-effective deal. Pretty much most dudes on this team are under contract for next season. Delano Banton is not. Jabari Walker is not. I'm a big fan of Jabari Walker. I think they should re-sign him. He's only 22 years old. A guy that really impressed me this season, though, from the Blazers was Toumani Camara. I think he's going to be an elite defender in this league, an elite defender. And maybe he's learned it from Matisse Thybulle. Matisse Thybulle, I feel like, has dropped off a little bit since he, got to the Blazers. People haven't really been focusing on him as much, probably just because they're not winning. They're not really a serious team right now in terms of threats, and they're not even in the playoffs, right? So teams aren't really scared about going against the Blazers right now. That's kind of what I'm trying to say, which is not a bad thing. It just means they have room to grow, and they got to figure out what's going on here. So I also think Robert Williams is a big question mark, as well as DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton's getting paid $35 million next season, the biggest contract, or the biggest number for next year on the books. So, he's going to be in the last year of his deal. Maybe that's a guy you can trade. There are plenty of teams that I think would like to have a guy like DeAndre Ayton. I think he's gotten a bad rap since he got, basically let go from Phoenix. And I think a lot of people blame him for, them losing in the finals. The fact that he's only 26 years old. When they got to the finals, I think he was like 22 or 23. So you got to give the dude credit, right? Like he didn't perform that well, but it was a big moment for a guy that was very young at the time in the league. He kind of got a lot of success very quickly. He's a former number 1 overall pick, right? Everyone says, oh, DeAndre Ayton's a bust, this and that, whatever, because he got picked ahead of Luka Doncic. I'm sorry. No one really knew Luka Doncic was going to turn out the way he was going to turn out, right? So I don't necessarily think DeAndre Ayton was a bad pick. Obviously, if you go back, Luka Doncic is obviously the number 1 pick, but that's with hindsight being 2020. So, but back to the Blazers. I think those are the big questions. Is DeAndre Ayton getting traded? Is Jeremy Grant getting traded? And honestly, is Anthony Simons getting traded? Because what are you doing with Scoot Henderson, right? Scoot Henderson has got to get more playing time. He's got to be a starting player, I think, if he's going to grow. If you don't think he's going to grow, then what do you do with him, right? He's still a young player. Maybe you trade Scoot Henderson if you're not super happy with him. Led the team in assists this season at 5.1. He's a good facilitator. He's a big body guard. Strong dude. So see what happens. I'm also a big fan of Donovan Clingan. I think he kind of started off very slow, started coming alive as we moved through the season. But I think we're going to see a big jump from him next season. And shout out UConn. Huskies are just doing their thing, man, in the league. Stephon Castle, Donovan Clingan, doing their thing. Woof, woof. But that's really all I can say, man. I'm a big fan of Duop Reith as well. But that's really the main thing here. Is I think they need to figure out their identity. I think Chauncey Billups, their head coach, needs to kind of like drill that into them. Be like, this is what we're doing. We're going to stick to it. And we're going to learn how to play this way. And that's really what it's got to be. Because, again, there's potential for this team. And we'll see where it goes. Right now, they're currently projected to pick 9th or 10th in the draft. They're in the lottery. Like I said, record was tied with Phoenix, so they're right now currently tied to pick 9th. So one of them's going to wind up picking 10th. If the lottery odds fill out exactly how they're supposed to, they have a 3.7% chance to win the number 1 overall pick per Tankathon, and a 17% chance to get into the top 4. So there's a real reality where this team comes away with the top 4 pick. And maybe they are a playoff team next season then. At least a play-in team, right? So Portland fans, I know it was tough when you guys lost Dame. Not just because, he was helping the team get to the playoffs. But at the same token, like, Dame is just an exciting player to watch. I think this team can be exciting to watch. They just got to find that guy. Maybe it's in the draft this season. Who knows? But, Denny Avdia has some potential. Scoot Henderson has some potential. Shane Sharp certainly has a lot of potential. And we'll see where it goes. But I think it's going to be interesting to see if they make any moves this offseason. Like I said, some of those players that I named definitely could wind up in certain landing spots. It just depends if the Blazers are going to take those types of deals and if they're going to get compensated appropriately. Obviously, you don't want to make a deal just to make a deal. You want to make the right deal. So we'll see what happens, man. If you're a Blazers fan, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know how you think your season went. What do you think they should do in the offseason? What do you think they should do in the draft? How do they improve from here, man? Let me know your thoughts. So I'm going to catch you guys later, man. Stay safe, stay up, stay blessed, stay humble, handle business, stand on business. Peace out.